Welcome to this Outlook panel discussion on Goa. The latest issue actually covers Goa, and we have excellent columns from Claude, Frederick, Elsa, Jack. Maya Bhushan has written the cover story. And with this issue, we wanted to kind of break the stereotype of Goa, where every time we have talked about Goa in the mainstream, most of the times actually, it's about how Goa is a holiday destination, paradise, all of those things. And we decided to kind of look at the ecological disaster facing Goa and the money that is coming in and all of those things. And also look at the culture side, where Frederick has written a brilliant piece about publishing in Goa. And it all started from this film screening on the mangroves, where I heard Elsa warn us all about drowning. And actually I have a small apartment in Goa which is in Bardes, which also might drown, and that led me to kind of curate this whole issue around this. And we've had in this whole issue actually mostly the Goans have written rather than us writing about Goa. It's people from there who have written about the situation in Goa. And so here we have like 4 of them who will talk about Goa and the stories that they have written. So Maya Bhushan, if you would like to start with it and ask Claude to because you have a better understanding of Goa than us for sure.
I have had the privilege of reading Claude's piece because it's not in the print edition yet, but I happen to see it because he forwarded it to me. Claude, what is the haste with which things are happening? Is that a worrying thing, or is the element of non-correction of these trends, or is that a bigger worry?
The biggest worry is that till today, the political system, whether it's Congress or BJP led or any other party led, even MG or whatever it is, the system has now become completely oriented to business. I mean, every politician now is a rank businessman, and therefore all the decisions are decided by business. Will this get us more money? Will this contract here get us more commissions? Will this project get us more things and things like that? So there is we don't have today a group of politicians who have, forget about being visionaries, even have an elementary idea of what Goa is, how it needs to be protected. Obviously, anything which is fragile and which is very small and which is very green is going to get undermined in a really very remarkable, dramatic way. If everybody, if just putting it that way, if 1.4 billion people want to have a home in Goa, every secretary who comes to Goa wants to have a second house in Goa. Every businessman wants to have a house in Goa. Then of course there's no chance that Goa is going to be left at all, and everything is going to be dismantled.
He kind of had a very personal approach to kind of like his piece, where he talks about this memory, and that memory itself is very horrific. And he talks about Goa in that from the lens of that memory. So Claude, I just wanted to ask if there is a solution, because Goa is a lesson for kind of all of us. Like, it's happening in the Northeast, it's happening everywhere, and that's why we thought we'll start with Goa first, because of the politics of all of these things. Is there a solution, and what could it be? And the whole there's a lot of these citizen collectives, artist collectives that are working to kind of protect Goa. So is there a solution where, things could, improve, or you think the forces of money and power are too much to fight?
Well, right now, the forces of money and power are too enormous. Of course, they are in that sense, as ephemeral as most powers go. As you can see in the case of the mining industry, it was considered to be a very powerful industry with a huge amount of cash reserves and a huge amount of cash in suitcases. So they were able to decide the politics of the state and so on. But eventually that entire scenario, that entire empire has come to an end. As of June 6th, all the mining leases have reverted to the government, and reversing a situation that commenced in 1929. Now, similarly, you can have a large number of other agitations. For example, if you look at the town planning initiatives that are going on right now, it's in complete disarray because the government because of their own internal politics, have now decided to scrap or to suspend all the outline development plans and to revert all the conversions that have been done, which were, nonsense, like where no development slopes have been converted, Kazan lands have been converted, tenanted fields have been converted. Now the government says that we are going to undo all that and we are going to put the report in the assembly because it's a sort of an inter-party fight that may be going on. We do not know. But the thing is that for several years that people have fought on land use, on protecting the land use of the state, finally it has reached a stage where the town planning minister says, we are very sorry, we have to stop all this, otherwise Goa is going. So they have taken the first step of suspending all the planning that has been taken place for the state of Goa.
No, that's true. That people's participation is important, and that has not been heard. Even in media, I think the whole participation, at least in the mainstream media, is not really up to the mark. Like you need to give people the chance to speak. And Maya Bhushan, would you like to ask Elsa?
Yeah, I asked Frederick a question. Frederick, you've been around for many summers. Claude paints a picture, rightfully paints a picture of Disney in terms of policy and policy formation, catering towards a very small set of people who are vastly influential. How was it in the 80s and 90s, 90s especially, Fred, when the wheels of change really started moving in Goa? I mean, do you see a similar picture playing out in the 90s, or were there still politicians who were sympathetic to the way of?
Yeah, so whether it's environment, politics, policy making, corruption, all these, there has been a trend. There has been a certain trend which has got aggravated in recent times, but the trend has been there all throughout. The trend has been all there throughout, and you can see it coming, as Claude says, in whichever party has ruled Goa. Okay, 2 points I want to add to the discussion so far, maybe 3. The first point is that of course the situation is a big challenge. But maybe the question that needs to be asked is, how do we get out from here? So while Claude and all have been focusing a lot on the crisis and highlighting it and stalling it since the 70s, there is also a need, for the first time we are seeing many more citizens groups which are active and doing their own thing, which I see as a positive sign. Whether it's enough, whether it's sufficient, whether it's too late, that's a different debate. But it's happening now, and there is a quite a wide activity level on these things. That's the first issue. The second probably is that a lot of these groups, while they have been working, the opposition has been completely absent. Whichever party is in the opposition, they have been totally absent from the feast, by and large, except once in a way when it is to rake up pre-political points and say that we have stopped mining, and then say no, we have not stopped mining, which Maya Bhushan, you also have documented nicely in your book.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you about this publishing side as well, because we, at least I have realized that we don't know much about Goa in terms of books, in terms of literature, in terms of anything. And I think my first encounter was actually with Maya Bhushan, who sent me his short stories that he had written in some of these poems. And I think that kind of encounter, which I had at the Saligao Institute of Art that day when I met you and Leonardo and all these people, it was very different. And you gave me a lot of books, to read. And why do you keep at it? Because this mainstream publishing again is a problem in terms of not getting the vernacular kind of voices onto the big platform, because that's actually how we get to know people, how we get to know cultures, how we kind of get to know places. So what do you think about that? Because I think that creates this kind of empathy or understanding and not othering. I think othering is a big problem which kind of is also happening in Goa. So in terms of like your publishing experience and you keep at it, right? So what is any takes on that?
Just to put it briefly without taking too much time, our friend Claude has accused me of copying his model, his idea, which is partly true in that sense, because they were into publishing much before we were. Okay, the Other India Bookstore and the alternative, network features and those kind of things. So it's that we learned a lot of things from them also. There's no doubt about it. Our perspectives were slightly different. I'm more locally focused. They have published also some excellent works on Goa. But I've always been caught up with this idea that most places don't get the space they deserve. And,
Yeah.
in the past, it was much more acute. Today, you have a more active press locally because of market-based competition. Now, how many problems market competition can solve is a different debate also.
And how do
It's
you
a
plan to kind of take it to the level where people like me can, like sitting in Delhi, can read about Goa? Because there's not, social media helps to a certain extent, but it's damn difficult to find, like
tough job because
very tough. Yeah.
distribution is broken. Distribution
Yeah.
at the national level, at the state level also is broken.
Yeah.
So like, if you're a publisher, it means you also have to be a distributor. But I don't want to monopolize. There are other important issues. So,
My question, you want to ask Elsa, because Elsa is somebody who scared me too much, about this drowning situation in Goa.
Well, how bad the situation is it's a continuous process. And instead of we understanding that the process of environment or climate change is at our doorstep and we need to do something about it, and that's something will start from realizing that we need to do a lot of study, we need to do a lot of research, understand our state, and then finalize a list of plans of actions. Instead of doing all of this, which is a general strategy in attempting any kind of risk, instead of doing this, we are doing exactly the opposite. First, we are not even understanding that there is a risk at our doorstep. This is number one. Number two, we have to know what are the characteristics of our land.
Just wanted to ask Elsa that, like you've done like really comprehensive research, and I actually freaked out when, I saw your presentation at the film screening, and, you have like this whole meticulous set of data and like all these charts, and why is this not there out, in the sense that why do we not know about this catastrophic situation, or we choose not to? What does it take to take it out into the world? And I mean, is there like people are not really into this, or I mean, how much of an effort is it to tell the world about this? Because I think Goa is still, this whole paradise thing, everybody's like trying to go to Goa, and the people in Goa are trying to warn, but somehow there's a discordant note where we don't get it. Or I just wanted to ask you that.
I think the risks are more at the doorstep of the coastal areas. And this has been seen way back in 1991 when the CRZ notifications were out. Maybe the risks were at a different level back then, but I'm sure they have grown over a period of time. And if you are asking me about the experts who are supposed to be aware of this, I'm sure they are aware, because if my generation is aware, I'm sure the earlier generation and even the generation later is aware. They are aware of much more what you call computerized programs which are available, which can assess this situation, model this situation, simulate the risks factors, assess the possibility of the damage which can happen in the next 5 years. All of this is there.
Jack,
Yeah.
we have to come to you now because you live along the coast. You live in Panjim. You've seen the city grow into what it has. How would you see Elsa's take on planning in coastal areas, especially urbanized coastal areas?
I think it's the most important issue facing both coastal areas as well as if you go into the hinterland, because I think the mountains also are getting affected. So we with tourism basically grew in Goa as totally unplanned and in a haphazard manner with very minimal government intervention. Or where there was intervention, it was just in the terms of giving land, giving rights to build. And and now they're planning to go in the hinterland. So it's very important that we keep it as low intensive as possible. And the coastal area, I think, has reached its saturation point long back. So we really need to see how we salvage what is possible. Now, if you consider when I grew up, Miramar Beach ended where if you know where the Babu Sponsor house is today, it was called the Dead End. That road has been named after my grandfather now, and it goes to Donapal. But each and every field over there is being filled. And so is every field in Taligaon likely to be filled, which was once the granary of Goa. Similarly, the core Panjim per se has not changed much, except for areas where you see old houses being pulled down and multi-story buildings come up. And I mean, Panjim has always had housing societies built in the 70s and 80s, which have gone up in core Panjim. The heritage areas now are getting increasingly affected with traffic has gone through the roof. So there's basically, it was a very pleasant city to walk in. You could walk around. The nights were really peaceful in Panjim. With the casinos, that's changed. But yeah, I think the thing that has changed Panjim, there's so much money come in with the casinos and other things that it is just a free for all where you build, and no thought is taken to the soft infrastructure or things like that. Like I had a recent case wherein I had a guest staying in a hotel, and because Fontainebleau has got this tidal effect, the sewage was backflowing into the room. Though I heard a very interesting thing from someone yesterday where he said once the money starts, you never really know when to stop. So yeah.
Probably the best way to sum up your experience, Jack, because that's what the casinos have done, right? Everyone's benefiting. I mean, there are people coming in, there are footfalls, there's money rolling, I'm presuming, but it has a cost. It has a cost.
See, apart from the ecological damage that is facing Goa, there's also this new kind of politics that is emerging in Goa, right? There's identity politics, which Maya Bhushan has addressed. And there's this whole temple revival kind of a deal going on with this Gyanvapi controversy and with all of these things. And I think Jack has actively participated in discussions on that as well. What does it mean for Goa and this whole thing about, this Portuguese Inquisition, this, that, all kinds of things. And Goa, they always say that is a laboratory for all kinds of experimentation. What is going on in that area? And we had a very interesting election where you saw all kinds of parties coming in and, not much changed, of course, but you still had this emerging kind of politics. And Goa never had, and that was the first piece Maya Bhushan wrote for us, that why did Goa never had a very strong regional party in that sense? Like, let's say a Shiv Sena in Maharashtra, or like an RJD in Bihar, or Trinamool Congress in West Bengal.
So basically what I think is what is happening now is the ruling party sort of realizes that they can never go above this 30 to 32% thing, and they're just trying to see how much further they can push. While in Goa there has always been a sort of a religious divide, it has never been to this thing. Like we would go to Ganesh for our whatever friends festivals, and people would come for Christmas. There was always sort of an amity. There was always the thing, he's a Hindu, he's a Catholic, whatever. But there was this thing. What is happening now is like sort of a trigger which is being put. And it is not a very positive sign. I think more and more people have to speak up about it and get the issue out.
So Goa is a delightful place, but I think Goa should belong to people who are there, and they should be able to take care of it. Well, thank you so much for joining us.